card in heaven.
That's my continent. Give me your continent. You too.
Okay. Yes, I think I'm okay. Member of Parliament for Richmond Hill, and I want to welcome all of you to this workshop this afternoon on how to become a Canadian citizen. And there is nothing more valuable than being a citizen. And there are certain rights, but there are certain responsibilities in becoming a citizen of Canada. And it is a privilege to be a citizen of this country. And in fact, citizenship denotes that not only are you a member of the Canadian family, but that you have responsibilities such as participation in the voting process, in being involved in your community. And I am delighted as the Member of Parliament for Richmond Hill to welcome a good friend of mine, a former Member of Parliament and a former Citizenship Court judge, Sarkis Asadurian. And Sarkis has a long and distinguished career as a Member of Parliament and as a citizenship judge, and as an immigrant himself. He certainly understands the process of what it means in terms of how you become a citizen. And as you know, the government has announced new citizenship guidelines and rules in terms of becoming a Canadian. Those new booklets we will certainly make available to you, but they won't be out in print until about mid-December, I understand. I do these workshops. We did one on pre-budget submission to the Minister of Finance back in October. But I want to congratulate Sarkis. I want to congratulate the Richmond Hill Federal Liberal Riding Association, including our President Jason Cherniak, Nancy Cutler, Enid Mills, for their leadership in putting this together. And I want to congratulate Joyce Hugh, who is my community relations and media staff member, who was instrumental in getting out the media today. She's the face of the community when I'm not here. Some people say much prettier than I am, which I won't argue with. And I also want to thank Fiona and Svetlana and Han from my office, who are at the back for registration. So without further ado, this isn't about me, it's about you and understanding the process, and I turn it over to Sarkis, and again, I thank him for his leadership in this regard. Sarkis.
Thank you very much, Bryon. I also like you to join me in congratulating and thanking the staff that prepared this event for us, and also volunteers, as it was mentioned earlier. Please join me. Let's give them a good hand too. Okay, as it was mentioned earlier, I am an immigrant myself. I became Member of Parliament because I have same rights in this country as Bryon has, because he's born here. I was not born here. Some of you here in this room are not born here either. So what I'm trying to tell you, at the end of the day, you have the same rights as a citizen of this country when you take the oath as if you were born here. No distinction, none whatsoever. But we have two different kind of citizenship application. What I will do, I will introduce you the issue first, and then I ask you to ask me some questions if you have any questions concerning by yourself. So those who are over 55, they want to apply to become a citizen, they get their life a bit easy because they don't have to go through the test of linguistic know-how or know-how for Canada. Basically, when you become 55, you apply for it, the only requirement we ask you to have is your residency, which means you must live here 1,095 days before you apply to become a citizen out of last 4 years, which means from total of 1,460 days, you must live here 1,095 days. If you came here 1950, 60, you apply today being November 22nd. We go back November 22nd, 2005. That gives you 4 years. In that 4 years, you must be here 1,095 days. If you're not, what the government will do, they issue a questionnaire for you. which looks like, well, I have a copy here. Like this. Anybody who applied for citizenship status in this country and they haven't been here for 1,095 days, you must apply, fill this form. It tells you about what kind of proof you have to prove to me that you lived here as you say you did. And the judge will review this application, this form, and ask you a question. If you pass, if you have reasonable explanation as why you were away, you went vacation, you were sick, whatever case may be, but you have to document every word you say. In this here, we have list of requirements we ask you to provide with us. The most important thing is your lease, or if you own a property. If you own a property 4 years ago, it means you live here. If you have a lease, every year you renew your renewal for the lease, it means you lived here. If you have a receipt for the purchases, you purchase car, purchase fridge, purchase house, whatever case may be, but you got to prove to the judge that yes, you were living here. Further, judge may ask you to prove your status here, your medical records, not medical records as what kind of sickness you had, but medical visits to the doctor. Because Ontario government keep the records of every visitation you do to a doctor in Ontario. And if the last 4 years, if you're 66, 65 years old, 70 years old, you haven't been to a doctor, there's something wrong. Means you were not living here, basically. Of course, that's only one aspect of the test we do to make sure that you qualify to have 1,095 days and to become a citizen. Second aspect is if you are under 55 and over 18. That category age means you have to meet the requirement which is the same as 55 and over. Plus, you have to pass the language test and knowledge test of Canada. Language test, basically, we ask you for a 50 easy question from each section. We ask you what is your name, when is your date of birth, what have you. But if you answer them reasonably well, usually say okay, he or she is okay. So I mean, we don't expect you to be professor in English language, but we want you to be able to function in your life as a person in the society. Further, what I used to say to the people, it's better for you to speak in language. If you want to get a job, you can't speak the language, doesn't do me any good. If I'm going to hire you, you speak other than English or French language in Canada or being Quebec, means I cannot use you, means you have no income, means you are not independent. In order for you to be independent, productive member of society, you must be able to speak the language in a reasonable way so you can express yourself and understand what people are saying. If you pass those two tests, you qualify to become a citizen, provided you also meet your requirement for residency 1,095 days. After you finish the test, in a crowd like this, they get about 80, 85 people in Yonge and St. Clair, that's where I used to work. You pass the test, 2 weeks after, they usually send you a letter saying, you passed the test, please come in certain day of the week, so you can take your oath and attend the ceremony so you become a citizen. The minute you take your oath, you become a citizen, and you have same rights as anyone else in the country. No less and no more. So that's the basic concept of citizenship. Of course, as it was mentioned earlier, you have rights and you have obligations. Your obligations is, of course, pay taxes. You can't get away from it. Also, get involved in society to become member of any volunteer organization you want. We expect you to take part to building society stronger than ever before here in this country. If you don't become active member of society, nobody's going to blame you. Nobody's going to send you to jail for it. It's better for you, for your family, to be active in the organization, service organization, or political organization. When we come to the questionnaire, the most important questions that we ask, you must answer at least 12 questions right out of 20. Questionnaires like this. In this questionnaire, they ask you 2 questions that you must answer correctly. If you fail one of those, you get 19 out of 20, you still fail the test to become a citizen. Those two questions are what we call democratic issue questions. Fundamental for us to function as the principle of democracy. You must answer at least one question right when they ask you who can run as a candidate in a federal election. If you don't answer me right, you fail the test. Despite the fact you may have 19 correct, you fail the test. Now tell me, who can run as a candidate in a federal election? Question for you. Yes, sir.
Any Canadian who has obtained the Canadian citizenship.
You're wrong. You failed the test. And you have to be over 18. Right? Okay. Then, who can vote in general election? Another question you must answer correctly. Who has the answer? Who can vote? You failed the test, so you cannot ask the second question. Who has another question? Yes, ma'am. And you have to be registered. You failed the test too, see? These 3 questions, 5 questions total, you must answer them correctly. If you fail the question, answer to your question correctly, you fail the test. Means you have to come back again, do application all over again, generally 6 months to 1 year delay. So it's very, very important from the book that we give you, this book here, you study the book carefully. And some communities I know, they have Iranian translation, Chinese translation, or Italian translation. If you go to your community centers, what have you, they give you translations, and you can study the book from the translated book you have, provided keep in mind, when you do the test, we do only in English or French. I just want to give you 2 examples of people I had a chance to make them citizen. One of them was Caribbean immigrant here, black and blind. I asked her, you know, because you're blind, medically you can be exempt from the test. She says, no, I won't do the test. I said, listen, if you fail the test, it means you cannot be a citizen today. You have to wait 6 months or 1 year. No, she says, I won't do the test. I said, okay. I was judged for 3 years. Nobody got 100% correct except that lady. I was so happy I was crying in the office. She insisted on being a citizen despite the fact she was blind. Said, how did you manage to study the book? Because in the computer there's a program, they ask the questions, they give you the answer, you remember it. So there is no reason for anyone here cannot study the book. Even if you're blind, you cannot study it, means there is no reason why can't you. So keep that in mind, that's the first thing. The other thing that we face usually as a judge, they come up with excuses. Well, I can't do this because I am busy, I have a job. I can't do this because I have 4 kids looking after the kids. Well, that's okay, there's no problem. But when you come to become a citizen, you have to pass the test and you have to qualify. I ask, sometimes they come to my office, well, I have keep the 3, 4 kids, 2, 3, 6, 7 years old. I look after them. I ask them, do you help them with their homework? He says, no. Or they say, yes. So, yes, aren't you happy you will help them with their homework? He says, yeah, I'm happy. So, for them to study more. Some of them say, no, I can't help. Why you can't help your kids? Because I can't speak English. Well, don't you like to learn English so you can help your kids? To become a better person in the school, in the society? Then they get emotional, which I don't blame them. But my intention in that situation is to make sure they realize the benefit of learning the language. As I said, we don't expect you to be perfect in the English language. I'm not perfect. But at least we want you to be able to communicate with your friends, with your neighbors. When you take the bus, you can ask the driver, I want to go this location. How do I go there? If you get an accident, you fall down, the car hits you. Police comes and asks you a question. You cannot help yourself. Then what happens? Who you blame? We have lots of classes. You can go there and learn the language. There's no problem. Free. Government pays for it. But you got to take advantage of it and make sure you become informed citizen of this country. The other issue I want to talk to you about is probation. By probation, what I mean is, if you're living in Canada, you are an immigrant, and you commit a crime. Many times we face with a person has a criminal record. When they put your name in the computer, RCMP or the police, the light will go on saying, so-and-so was charged for a crime or waiting for a trial date, or found guilty, so he or she will serve sentence for 3, 4, or 5 years, whatever case may be. If that is the case, what we'll do in the office is the following. If you came here 2 years ago, today you've been here for 4 years, right? And you were in jail for the last 2 years. We don't count that as you're in the country. So we take that away from 1,460 days, it gives you 760. Not 1095 or 1,460. So you have to make sure when you go there, your criminal record is clean. Because as a government, we can access any information we want. Our CMP will send us information saying, this person, this is the record they have, or the police. Even when they cross the border, I had a case a couple of years ago, they crossed the border, they lie at the border. They sent false information to our computer in the office. When the person comes to see the judge, we tell him, this is what's happening. Oh, no, that's wrong. I said, well, why would our CMP lie to me, or border security guards, about you? Tell me that, what's the reason? Obviously, you're the one who's lying, not the police. So you have this record here, or you didn't live in this country. You don't have the appropriate documentation to prove to us that, yes, you were living in this country as you said you did. So those are the issues that we look into, possibilities of make sure to become citizen. Keep in mind, my job is not to make your life difficult. Bryan's job is not to make your life difficult. We are here to help you. If you're going to help you, first and foremost, you got to help yourself. If you don't do that, by doing whatever required, whatever tells you in this book, it means you're going to have a problem. This book, which will be changed, by the way, as was mentioned earlier, in December we're going to have a new book, will emphasize more on the military aspects of it, or historical aspect, or our involvement in World War I, World War II, Korean War, so people will be more informed. There are many questions in this book that is good for you to know. I have to tell you also, maybe some Canadian born, they will fail this test. Don't feel bad to study. You have to study because there's lots of information here. Some of us born, some people born in this country, they may fail. So if you don't make it 100% right first time, don't feel bad. Study, you can make it perfect. There's no reason why you cannot do a good job. Some of the information we ask you to provide to prove your residency, I'll go back for a few more subjects here, is, as I said, rental agreement, mortgage papers, land transfer, property tax bill, income tax form, T4 slip, employment record, if you have a business, school record, family proof of presence in Canada, letter from provincial health ministry, letter from financial institutions, investment. All this information we ask you in order for you to prove to us that yes, you were here 1,095 days, not short. Just in case, you are here for 1,015 days, you're short 80 days. It's not the end of the world. When you go see the judge, things happen, you don't wait for 4 full years, you wait 3 years and 1 month. And you were away, say, 2 weeks every last 3 years away vacation. So it means you're short 6 weeks from 1095, right? So judge will say, where were you? You produce a passport, stamp in the Canadian passport that you traveled, what have you. And if you are reasonable, you are not lying, what have you. Because if you lie, you finish everything, right? So don't ever lie when you deal with the government, because they have ways to find out. Sometimes you slip through the cracks, but the best is to be straightforward. And if you prove to the judge you're sincere, you're honest what you're saying, judge has flexibility to go up to around 900 days in Canada. That is possible. But if you're going to go there, again, lie to the judge, of course you're going to lose your goodwill. And if you lose goodwill, judge doesn't lose anything, you lose. So I would suggest, whatever you do, make sure you speak the truth, you'll tell the truth to the judge or in the application. Also, one more very important thing to remember, when you put the application, in any application, make sure you keep copies. Whatever you send to the government, keep a copy with you. If you don't have a copy, your word sometimes may not be enough. You must provide proof of what you say most of the time, in whatever case, deal with the government of Canada. Of course, citizenship being one of those issues. So basically, that's what we do as a judge, as a citizenship court judge. That's how the process begins. And there's a fee $200. Maybe I don't know if fee gone up or not. $200 is the main fee. If you fail to become a citizen, you did not qualify in residency or you failed the test, what have you, Government of Canada will refund you $100 back. But you must prove your residency here. Also, they ask you to prove, when you go to test, they ask you to bring your passport, your PR card, any government issued documentation that prove your identity, you must have that. Those who are under 18, if the father and the mother, they go there to become citizen, they have 2 kids, 14, 16, 17, whatever. Those kids, they don't have to go through the process. They go with the family, husband and wife. And then if the wife fails or the husband fails, one of them only passed the test, those kids will go along with the passing person. So what I'm saying is, if David and Jones and 2 kids, they go put the application in, if Jones fail the test or residency, the kids will go with the mother. They all become citizens except the father. They can split the application, make sure the process goes through. This is, as I said earlier, we try to help you as much as we can. We can be as flexible as possible within the law, but we require your cooperation in order for us to make sure you become a citizen of Canada. After you become citizenship, of course, it was mentioned earlier, you are free to do whatever you want to do. Usually what they do, is happiest day in their lives, is right next door to our office, Young and St. Clair, we have passport office. People apply for the passport and they travel. And when travel, I urge you, take these maple leaf pins with you. As a member of parliament, Bryon knows that I travel quite a bit. Even if you go to Champs-Élysées, Paris, they see you have maple leaf pin, say, gee, you're from Canada, how can I become an immigrant? Even the Champs-Élysées in Paris, I assure you that happened to me many, many times. So be proud when you travel, get your Canadian passport, get your Canadian bags, put the maple leaf on your chest, you'll be okay, come back safe and sound home. So that's my presentation. One more point I want to make is dual citizenship. Canada allows dual citizenship. If you are a citizen of any country in the world, when you become citizen, you don't have to denounce the previous citizenship. You can maintain 2. Some countries don't like that. They ask you to denounce it, make up your mind either this or that. But now Canada accepts any kind of citizenship. Having said that, also some countries, I have to warn you, if you become a citizen, you may lose part of your pension or all of your pension. And if you are military or business, whatever case may be, you may lose your pension. So before you apply to become citizen, make sure you're okay with that particular country to have your citizenship in Canada. And if you do that, there's no problem on our part as a government of Canada or as a judge or a system not to allow you to have 2 citizenship. But when you travel overseas, Government of Canada is responsible for each and every citizen, except where you come from. If you're from, say, Iraq, you go to Iraq, you have a problem there, Government of Canada cannot do much for you. We do whatever we can, but cannot do much for you because Iraq will say this person is a citizen of Iraq, that's all there is to it. Stay out of it. Happens that, and then blame Government of Canada for not doing enough. By law, we cannot do more than what we can do. Another thing I want to warn you, if you have a refugee claim, please don't go back where you come from. Because that voids your claim as a refugee, because you can't go back because you can't live here. Some people can come to the office, oh, I didn't know I cannot go back. Well, you know what? You claim refugee status because if you go to this country, your life is in danger. How could you go back if your life is in danger? So that's create complication for you, so I urge you not to do that. And basically that is, I hope that's it. I hope you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer.
Citizen or a Canadian citizen by birth wants to apply for citizenship for a dependent child, the dependent child will be able to obtain Canadian citizenship. But if that Canadian citizen, let's say, was born abroad and then has another child who was born abroad, it will be the second or third generation, then they will be excluded from Canadian citizenship.
Well, that case I think came through a pilot a few years ago. I think when we were member of parliament. That's goes way back. But because some people, they were citizens of the country for many, many years, 50, 60 years, they never came here. They never lived here. I mean, if you're a Canadian, this is Canada, there's lots of land, from coast to coast, millions of acres. Lots of opportunity. Everybody dies to come to live in this country. Listen, people are fighting to come in. There's a big line now. Why you won't live in this country to start with anyway? Now, if you have a job, overseas, States, Europe, most of them are States and England anyway, I think, all those people. They could come here once in a while and then maintain their status. Nothing wrong with that. But if totally don't show up, I think in some ways, I agree with the government. At one point, we have to stop this. What the question is, how far back can you go? How far back would you go?
Yeah.
That's flexibility. I guess government has the right to decide, I want this far, I want that far. That's, one generation may be too short, maybe 2 generations is enough. I don't know.
My concern would be more so, I know this new law is extremely controversial, and some people, they may find it unfair in respect that, like a dependent child, someone who was born outside Canada, who happens to be traveling abroad, and then they happen to have a child outside Canada. And then that child would not have the right to become a Canadian citizen, but would have to apply for immigration as opposed to citizenship. I guess that's that point, that specific case would be, in my view, my personal view, will not be very fair, but it's the new law.
But if you're a citizen, you're traveling abroad, you have a baby overseas, that person, kid will be a citizen. There's no question.
But the dependent child of that dependent child. The second generation or the third generation.
Oh, well, yeah. Second, yeah. Well, again, as I said, they have to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but at one point, government will make a decision, we want to go this far up.
Right.
Why would you say 3 years? You can argue 4 years to become a citizen. Why 3 years only? Some people say should be citizen the minute they become Canada, become overnight, become citizen. You agree with that? I don't. But it's a matter of perception, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
And then when we had the situation 2 years ago in Lebanon,
Yes.
where 15,000 people suddenly wanted to come back to Canada, many of them had never been here for 30 years, and expected the government, i.e. the taxpayer, to pay for them. Half of them went back to Lebanon.
Week after.
So I will tell you that if that were to happen again, they won't be brought home. In other words, there has to be ownership. And at some point, you can't say, I'm a Canadian of convenience when you want to be, and you're in Lebanon at that time in that example. On your case, it often applies both in the issues of diplomats and business people, and I have met with chambers of commerce in Japan, Canadian Chamber of Commerce in Japan, and other places who've raised this issue. But at some point, the government decided in their regulations that there had to be a line drawn. And that doesn't preclude the fact that business people do travel around a lot or stationed, but there's also more of an onus now that at some point, they want to be home. Other questions?
Yes, sir.
I have 2 simple questions.
Make it difficult. Don't make it
Probably the one is a little different. First, if a person applies for citizenship, has to pay up front $200. If he fails, you lose $100. Is that
They
correct?
refund you $100 back there.
The other thing I'm asking,
No interest.
after he passes the citizenship, is approved, does he get any documents that he's a citizen at that moment?
They give you a certificate, paper this size, signed by the minister. Also, they give you a small ID with your picture on, that you are a citizen. Those 2 you keep with you. One of them you keep in your wallet, the other one you can keep home as a backup, just in case you lose the first. But I suggest you photocopy both of them, keep them safe
So
place.
right after he gets 2 pieces of
Same
paper,
day.
one
Same
same
day.
day. We do not pay extra.
No, that's including your $200.
Thank you very much.
And that's a good point about photocopying your documents. And as a Canadian citizen, I would suggest that you, if you're born here, that you photocopy your birth certificate and your passport, because you never know, when you're traveling abroad, I would always take a copy of your passport as well, in case you lose it. It makes it a lot easier for our high commissions and embassies to deal with you abroad. And as a citizen, if you come here as a landed immigrant, become a citizen, again, those kind of documentations are helpful, because often, if you're dealing with my office, we need to see those in order to deal with citizenship
Also,
and
there
immigration.
is a lot of countries, they are citizens of the country they're born, plus they become Canadian citizen, they have 2 citizenship. In other words, if a person uses the passport of not Canadian passport, the card will prove that he's Canadian citizen.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Card is as good as anything
Thank
else.
you very much.
Yes, there was a question, yes, sir?
During the process, how one's document taken as a for random check, and what would add to that, for example, a specific person process? Are there any other things?
When you are invited after 3 years to come in for a test, they ask you to bring with you some documents. Your PR card, your landing papers, your driver's license or OE paper, whatever you have to prove your identity. When you give those information to the officer that they check, say, okay, you're the person first, you pass the test, so you qualify to take the second step. But if you cannot prove at the time that you don't have your PR card with you, then the officer will say something must be wrong in this process. We're going to ask you to come again to see a judge. So you come to prove to the judge that you are a citizen or you're immigrant, you say who you are, but you pass the test, you don't have a verbal test with the judge. Mind you, got two kinds of tests. One test you do in a crowd, in 70, 80 people. When you pass that, then okay. If you fail, you go to the judge. Judge will ask you a question verbally. The first session is multiple choice. What was your second question there?
I don't think so, actually, because my question was about how one, for example, file chosen for a random check. I have heard some immigrants are getting random checks.
What do you mean by random check?
During the process, some get more scrutinities or something like that.
During the test?
No, before that, during the process.
Or when you put your application to
Yeah.
Sydney, from Sydney coming back to the office here, random check for, maybe they do, if, as I said, if your name pops in the computer, or your first name, not the last name, or spelling, RSMP will ask for fingerprints. Not because you are criminal, because there's confusion here, you may be this person. They want to make sure your fingerprints, they run the fingerprints with the fingerprints they have in the computer-based database, make sure you are not the person they're looking for. Then, that's where the problem occurs if you're the person. They come after you. If you're not the person, there's a mistake because of similarities of the name, then it's okay. Yes?
My question is there an advantage or disadvantage applying within Canada, or should you rather apply from outside of Canada?
No, when you apply for citizenship, you must be in Canada.
Okay.
The date and the place when you sign, say,
Understood.
November 22nd, 2009, Richmond, Ontario. You have to be here at the time.
Okay.
The day after, you can go.
Okay.
The day before, you can be out. But when you sign your application, you must be in Canada. By the way, when after you put your application in, next day morning you can travel again, there's no problem. Because government of Canada will look into the 4 years going back from date of your application, not after. So keep that in mind. Yes. Yes, sir.
Sir, my name is Maypat. I have sent my application for citizenship 3 years back, October 2006, for me and for my wife. Till I have not received any reply or nothing. Why it is so much delay?
No
All,
correspondence now whatsoever?
yes, some papers are there, just for this, my wife's name, so I replied for that.
Yeah.
All the documents are with me now, but till now I am checking that it is in process, and not anything I received.
I give you phone number.
I guess.
One, write down. The phone number.
I inquired on the phone.
Oh, you're from Sydney?
1888.
Yeah, what did they tell you? It's in the process.
It is in process.
Well, then ask the member of parliament to make an inquiry for you.
Okay, I have got all of my papers.
Because every office, St. Clair, Mississauga, or Scarborough, they have one person designated for MP's inquiry. When they receive a letter from the MP, they move a bit faster. Keep in mind,
Can I give my all papers to?
well, I don't know what you're going to do, I just told you
No,
how the system
what
works.
you can do, you live in Richmond Hill?
Yeah.
On Monday, you can contact Svetlana at the back, and she will require certain things in writing from you. It is-
Copies, I
And
told you.
then she will make the inquiry.
Okay.
Okay, but we have to have it in writing. You can tell me anything you want now, I have a great memory, but I'll forget it when I go to the door. So Svetlana will be the one who will deal with it. It doesn't mean it's gonna happen overnight, but we will be able to make an inquiry for you, sir, and be able to see what's the situation.
Keep in mind also, the system is delayed hugely.
Yes.
November, December, they have no ceremonies done in St. Clair, or I think Scarborough. But November, December, I know there are no ceremonies organized in St. Clair office. So
Svetlana?
there are delays.
What are they looking at the moment, and what date are they looking at?
Well, it's a straightforward case, it's 15 months, but it's never happened. It's very rarely when we have case finalized within 1 year to 3 months. Usually it's more than that, because people make mistakes. Even 1 day shortage on the application will have many concerns with residency. People are upset, but it's the best recommendation, don't apply if you are missing 1 or 2 days. Give at least 2-3 weeks more than required in order to avoid residency questionnaires, because if citizenship asks you to send residency questionnaires, it will take 1.5 years for them to review your file. Basically, if you put your application in 2006 and in 2008 they ask you to provide some residency questionnaires because you missed 1 or 2 days, from 2008, since they receive your application, it will cost you 1.5 years. Again, to wait until they review your file, but there is no final decision because judge will make decision whether you can become Canadian citizen. So it may take up to 5 years. So basically, the major advice apply when you meet requirements, which is 1,095 days. It will be straightforward case if you have no any security problems or concerns. If police clearances are clear, so you will be more in advance with your citizenship application than if you miss only 1 day when you apply to citizenship.
When was the last time you called?
I applied for citizenship in 2007, and I wrote the test in 2008, August, and I passed the test. But it's weird, like the same day I wrote the test, they give me the residence questionnaire.
Because there are some concern with
and
the
they
residence.
told me there is only 15 days missing in my application. It's like 1,080 days. And I called them after 3 months, and they said your application in process. And it's been 15 months now, and I haven't heard anything back.
At one point, we were told, don't give anybody questionnaire if they are over or close to 1095. Then they changed regulations saying anybody 1 day short of 1095 must have questionnaire. So you fall in that. I'm sorry, but you're short 10 days, you have to still give a questionnaire. But once you give questionnaire, you give all the information they ask you in the questionnaire.
Yeah.
Then the paper, your file will go to an officer in citizenship. They'll assess your questionnaire. With the recommendation, will go to the judge. Judge will review your application, your questionnaire, your documentation, and then they'll make decision yes or no, or they may call you again for a hearing in the office to explain some documentation you have. Or if judge is not happy, they could reject your application, saying, listen, she's unqualified, she has to reapply again.
But I haven't heard anything. It's been
Again, you can call the
Sydney
office.
I called them and they said it's in process. And I also asked them like how long it's going to take. It's been 15 months since I give you the residence questionnaire.
You live in Richmond Hill?
No, I live downtown.
Can't help you.
I don't know.
That's one thing you got no MP.
Yeah, you can't.
Call your MP, local
Yeah.
MP, tell him what the problem is. Go to his or her office, explain. They will write a letter as anybody else would do. Their own local.
But usually, how long it takes this? Like,
Every factor is different.
I can answer that question.
Yes, Banana?
If you catch up my speech, it takes 18 months from the time you submitted your questionnaires. It takes at least 18 months, which is 1.5 years, to review your file. So 15 months, it's still in the process. It will take maybe 3-4 months until they get into your file, make decision, and be in touch with you. Even you can contact your MP, which is in Toronto. It will be an answer. It's in the process because they're working on the files received in beginning of 2008. It's today's time frame for assessment of residency questionnaires from 14 to 18 months, usually looking to the maximum, which is 18 months. So you will not have any answer on your file here. It will be still in the process at least for months.
What are the major jurisdictions of you live?
I live in Young College.
East of Young?
Yes.
I will be John Godfrey's old riding.
East of Young?
West.
You're west of or
Oh,
east?
sorry, West.
Bill Graham's old riding. Who is the MP there?
Bob Ray.
Bob Ray. Talk to Bob Ray.
See, as member of parliament, I can only deal with the people who live within the boundaries of my constituency. We actually, I know it's hard to believe, but we have shoppers. We have people who get a no from their MP, so they don't like that. So then they go to the next one, and the next, and sometimes, which is really horrific, because what happens is suddenly you get all these applications, or they use somebody's phony address, and suddenly, we find out suddenly that there's 4 or 5 applications in for something, and it causes all sorts of difficulty. So my suggestion is always phone your particular MP, indicate what you're looking for. They will ask for in writing certain things or certain papers. They're there to try to help you. But ultimately, the decisions are made by quasi-judicial bodies. They're not made by MPs. And that's extremely important, because as an MP in this country, you should not be involved in, pushing your friends ahead of the lineup or things of that nature. Because I'm not on the ground in country X, if it's a visitor visa. And here, I know it's hard to believe, Svetlana, she can't believe it either, people lie. And so we get people who tell us things, and then we say, well, that's not what we found out. And so there's difficulties. But Sarkis has given, I think, a very important point here. Better to exceed the number of days in Canada before you apply. And secondly, make sure you have absolutely every piece of documentation you need in order to ensure that it goes smoothly. Because at the end of the day, we want you to be a citizen.
Sure.
But you won't be a citizen if you don't follow exactly what's needed.
But I will ask you to call your local MP, have an appointment with the staff there, go there and explain what the situation is.
And then I have another staff who is born here. So we understand the situation, but again, it's making sure the documentation is absolutely correct. What do we care if Afghanistan has the Taliban? The point is that Canadians are prepared